Rachel Beider, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. It's so awesome to be able to talk with such a small business guru.
Thank you, Angela. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm delighted and I can't wait to dive in to all that you have to teach us because you have such an amazing experience and you've been featured in such high-level business sources. So, yeah, why don't you give listeners a little intro if they don't know who you are and how you became an entrepreneur?
Sure. I am, to start, a massage therapist. I grew up with scoliosis and a lot of chronic pain. And I ended up going to massage therapy school and then starting a business shortly thereafter. And so, after 15 years of doing massage therapy, I have 4 locations. There are 70 W-2 employees, which is wild. And I, along that journey, have a 4-year-old who was born right at the beginning of the pandemic in New York City. And when I was 5 months pregnant with my second child, I decided to do something a little bit unusual and crazy for me, which is open a completely different business. So I started the Canopy, which is in Williamsburg, Brooklyn, and it's a play and movement space for babies, toddlers, and their grown-ups.
I love it. And it's so gorgeous. I'm like, I wish I had like little ones again just to be able to experience it. It just looks just so inviting and so much light. And so, yeah, I mean, I just find that you went from a massage therapist background to being an entrepreneur. You just wanted to bring your brand of massage therapy to clients, huh?
Yeah, I realized pretty quickly, I don't love working for other people, it turns out. I
Most
always
entrepreneurs don't.
no, I'm not very good at managing up. I remember working for a spa and making suggestions like, could we please use products that are not filled with chemicals? Could we please, I'll change up the music sometimes? Could we please,
Mhm.
just I was so probably very obnoxious as an employee, unfortunately. But yeah, I realized pretty quickly just that I wanted to do a really specific kind of work. I wanted to do really clinical, in-depth work. I wanted 60 minutes of hands-on time instead of like 50 minutes back to back to back with only 10-minute breaks. And the only way I was going to accomplish this was by working for myself. And I set out with like a 5-year plan, which I'm putting in air quotes because I did it in 6 months, basically.
Mhm.
My thought was like, oh, I'll get out of school and just work for someone else for like a few years. And maybe by year 3, if I'm super busy, I'll have like a private practice. And maybe by year 5, when I'm a little more experienced, I'll hire someone. And it turns out I did it within 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, well, what was the momentum that you found to do it much quicker than you initially thought?
Yeah, well, I really, really wanted a private practice. Like I had been putting in hours working at a chiropractic clinic, which I
Mhm.
loved because it was like 15 minutes, very site-specific work, which is
Mhm.
fun. But it did feel very clinical, cold paper sheets, bright white lights. It didn't feel very relaxing.
Mhm.
And then I was working for a surgeon doing post-surgical reconstruction mastectomy work. So
Mm.
when you have a mastectomy, they give you an implant if you choose. And there's something that can happen called capsular contraction, which means it becomes hard and immobile. So I was working with women on their scar tissue, which was really impactful work. I really loved doing it, but it's also very emotional work. And
Mhm.
I just found that like working in all these different settings, there was always something just a little bit off for me. But I had student debt and I certainly didn't have any money to start a practice. So one day I was walking through my neighborhood and I found a physical therapy clinic and I popped in just to say hello, introduce myself and ask, do you offer a massage here? And they said, actually, we don't. And I don't know what came over me, but I was a precocious 24-year-old and I was just like, your patients are more likely to come back and do physical therapy if they're getting free massage. Would you let me work on your patients for free 2 mornings a week? In exchange, let me use this space when you're not using it. And they were like, okay, it's May. Let's try it. We'll
Mhm.
give you a month or two. Let's just try it. And at the time, I had maybe 10 clients who, let's be honest, were friends of mine. But by August, I had 110 clients.
Wow.
What happened was all of those free 10, 15-minute sessions, I was giving them a
Mhm.
little postcard, $20 off your first 1 hour session. And they were coming back and they were bringing
Mhm.
friends. And I realized if I'm working for free a couple days a week, I really need to use that space.
Mhm.
So this was long before social media. This is 2008. So
Mm.
it was long before, and I didn't have money for advertising or anything like that.
Mhm.
So I started to look for individuals who see a volume of their own private clients. So
Mhm.
chiropractors, hairstylists,
Mhm.
personal trainers. I had a lot of great haircuts and highlights that year. And I would trade massage for highlights and haircuts. I would trade massage for training. And I
Mhm.
would give them a stack of those cards. And what
Mhm.
was cool about that, especially with personal training, their clients are sore. They are wealthy enough to afford training. They care about their physical health. It's like a
Mhm.
perfect client for me. So a
Mhm.
lot of them became my clients, and then their clients became my clients. And so that's
Mhm.
how I started the practice. And eventually I asked them if I could just rent space instead of working for free. And they declined, which I was kind of surprised by, but lit a fire under me to be able to rent one little treatment room by myself. And so I ended up working a couple blocks away out of one little treatment room.
Mhm.
And I realized very quickly the rent was so expensive. And the 2 days a week I was at the spa, my room sat empty. And that just broke my heart because it was so expensive to me at the time. So I hired a girl that I went to school with. I said, would you be interested in trying it out like 2 days a week when I'm at the spa? She said, let's do it. So she was working the days that I was working at the spa. I was like calling her, like, hey, there's a 3 o'clock, while I was also sitting at 3 o'clock, which was crazy and hectic because online booking
Mhm.
didn't exist yet.
It wasn't Calendly yet.
Oh, I wish, gosh.
I
And I couldn't
know.
afford online. There was like one Mind Body Online, which goes way back, but I couldn't afford it. It was too
Mhm.
pricey for
Mhm.
me. I had like paper and
Mhm.
pen. We were using text messages.
Mhm.
It was pretty old school, but you start
Mhm.
with what you can.
Right.
And from there, we divided the day in half, and I started working, 4 or 5 mornings a week, and
Mhm.
she was working a few afternoons a week, and I hired more people, and we did so much out of one little treatment room until eventually I had to expand, and that's where it all started.
I love stories like that because I think so many people think, oh, it has to be so complicated and I have to go do all of these things. But, taking little incremental actions, having some creativity, taking some initiative, and making your own opportunities, even in the smallest little ways, can just really be the start of an amazing business, which, you have grown and now you've started Canopy, which is just, I can't wait to hear about that. On the press has been so successful. What inspired you to start Canopy?
Yeah, so I think because with my first baby, well, I'll rewind. My first pregnancy ended in a miscarriage at 9 weeks,
Mm.
which was so devastating and heartbreaking.
Mm.
And it's not even that I had been pregnant for terribly long, but I was just so happy and so excited. And so I think for me, I tend to be a bit anxious anyways.
Mm.
I was like super anxious when I finally got pregnant again. And when I was pregnant with my first son, Noah, I think I was like scared to kind of do a whole lot. And
Mhm.
then towards the end of my pregnancy, COVID happened in New York.
Mm.
And so, like a week before I was due, they said, oh, I'm so sorry, your husband can't attend your labor, which I was like, absolutely not. We're not doing that. So we switched
Yeah.
hospitals. I gave birth in a random hospital I had never been to. It was like a super traumatic experience. It was really
Yeah.
scary. I was worried I was going to die. I had a fever in the hospital. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have whatever this is. Like, it was super scary, and we all ended up
Can't
being
imagine.
okay, thank goodness. But I had terrible postpartum depression and anxiety after that.
Wow.
And I wasn't set up for success given that I had a history of it and the miscarriage.
Mm. Mhm.
Um, and it would be a while before I found the right balance for me, it was therapy and medication, which made a
Mhm.
difference.
Mhm.
But my postpartum experience was very isolating, super lonely. We just didn't leave our house for a year and a half because there
Yeah.
was no vaccines and I had a newborn and I was already scared of everything anyway.
Mhm.
And I was learning how to parent without community.
Mhm.
My dad didn't meet my kid until he was nearly 2. It was just, and my sisters didn't meet like, it was so painful. It was
Oh
so
my
hard.
gosh.
And so, it took me a few years to even think about having another kid. And finally, when we did get pregnant, about halfway through, around 5 months, I remember thinking, I need to do something different. I want to do
Mm.
something different for my second kid. Like,
Mhm.
it can't be as bad. Like, I need to do like a mom
Mhm.
group or a fitness class or a
Mhm.
something. I need to do
Mhm.
something. And it so happened that my massage business had been in the same location for 15 years, but they let us know that they were selling the building. And I was super upset because I'd been in this location forever.
Yeah.
It was a great location. And I was freaking out, like, oh my God, we have to
Mhm.
move it. And I finally found a great spot that I loved and I moved there. But then I was really worried about who's going to be the upstairs neighbors because in another location, they actually opened for a while an escape room directly above, which was very loud and very unpleasant. And it was like big fight. And, that got resolved, thankfully.
Mm.
But I'm very mindful of who my neighbors are. I like
Mhm.
quiet buildings. Massage,
Yeah.
we don't want to be hearing any crazy noises. So I was looking at the floor directly above mine and it was empty. And I remember like ideas just swirling in my head. And for me,
The entrepreneur
pregnancy,
wheels were turning.
yes, it's a very creative time. And it's
Yeah.
also, my therapist jokes, she was like, how some people like when they're stressed, they turn to drugs or alcohol.
Mhm.
So for me, I turned to work.
Mhm.
And she was
Mhm.
like, Rachel, I can tell how scared you are about this by the size of your project. And I was like, dang it, I feel so called out. Um, the space directly above mine became
Yeah.
available. It was available. And I was looking around up there and I'm like, what could I put in here? And in New York, our living rooms are tiny, our apartments are tiny.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
when it's rainy or gross or cold, you can't
Mhm.
take your kid to the park every day. They had
Mhm.
just announced my library was closing Sundays, and our libraries have been defunded in a major way. And unfortunately, there's a lot of unhoused community. It just doesn't feel as
Mm.
clean, safe, quiet. Also, when the baby cries, I feel really bad about him crying in the library. And the same, I felt weird about being in a coffee shop. You can't really park there. They kind of give you a dirty look like, okay, turn the table
Mhm.
over, be the next person served.
Yeah.
I didn't want him to learn to crawl on the floor of a bar, and so I was thinking about like, I just wish I could raise him in like a yoga studio or something, or like a big open, clean
Mhm.
space where he can't hurt himself. And I can just be calm and I don't have to worry about him being run over because there are play spaces. There are some great
Mhm.
places for bigger kids.
Mhm.
What I found was though, like there's sometimes like a baby casino vibe, like flashing lights and obnoxious noises. And I get so overstimulated postpartum anyway.
Yeah.
And so help
Mhm.
me, I do not want to listen to, Disney
Baby
music
shark.
24/7. Exactly. I do not want, I leave those places like super
Yeah.
overstimulated. My kid is
Mhm.
super overtired. I'm like on
Mhm.
high alert about like, is he going to get run over by a big kid? Is he going to hurt himself on toys that aren't, really meant
Mhm.
for him?
Yeah.
So I was just like, what I really want in an ideal world is
Mhm.
an indoor playground that is for like the young ones, like 4 and
Mhm.
under,
Mhm.
nothing that they can climb and fall off of and harm themselves,
Mhm.
nice padded floors. I want grown-up seating. I like
Yeah.
sitting on the floor. I do it all the time, but I also like to have a seat with a grown-up.
Mhm.
I was
Yeah.
like, I want good music. I want like
Right.
white, clean, lovely light. I want
Mhm.
scents that are soothing and relaxing and not
Mhm.
toxic. I want like
Mhm.
hyper cleanliness. Like I do not want to
Mhm.
be patient zero for hand, foot, mouth. You're like, we want clean, airy,
Yeah.
bright. Like I want to spend time
Mhm.
in a place where I'm not going to like leave with a migraine because their LED lights are just blasting all day.
Yeah.
And so I saw upstairs and I was like, I got to do it. And my husband's like, you're going to do what? You're 5 months pregnant. Like, are you sure about this? And I was
Yeah.
like, oh boy, am I sure. Like
It's
I was
happening.
so sure. And my contractor also, he was amazing. He's built all of my massage studios.
Mm.
And when I told him my vision and I got an estimate from him because he was just finishing building the massage studio, we
Mm.
walked upstairs. I showed him what I wanted. He was like, okay, kid, I'm going to front you some funds for this. Cause I told him, listen, I am short on funds, but I have a dream. He was like, I'll front you the funds. I'll give you a reasonable interest rate, no urgency to pay me back. And so I got a lot of capital from him, which is unheard of, which is really
Right.
unheard of because I don't have VC
Yeah.
funding. I don't have investors. Like I'm
Mhm.
100% owner of all my studios. So
Mhm.
this was really meaningful to me.
I love this because, honestly, I thinking now back when my girls were younger, I wished something like this had existed because all we had were like some of those places that you described. So, can you tell us more about like what's available for parents and kids? And you have such like an interesting philosophy where you bring like Montessori and some early education. Um, philosophies to the space as well. It's just like, I don't know, it's just gorgeous. I love it.
Thank you. It was so, for me as a new mom, and I felt like I was learning to be a mom again because I didn't leave the house with my first kid. I didn't know about how
Mm,
to wear him as a baby because we weren't going
mhm,
anywhere. I didn't
right.
know, and so with my second baby, I was like, I can foresee that at some point I'm going to forget a burp cloth, or I'm
Mhm,
going to need to feed him while I'm out, or I'm going to, so I just started to think about what are the things that make home feel safe. So I stocked it with clean burp cloths, bottle warmers, free snacks. We have like little snack dispenser for goldfish crackers, for puffs, like the banana puffs.
love it.
Like I made a quiet room with really cozy rocking chairs and like
Mhm,
nice side tables. So if you want to breastfeed, if you want to pump, you can do that anywhere, but we have like nice quiet rooms for that.
mhm,
Um, I made a great, great friendship with Shazi Visram, who owns Healthy Baby.
mhm,
And they provided for all of our members diapers in every size, free wipes, and they're like super, super clean, EWG certified, like
mhm.
amazing cleaning products, the full line of like balms and creams and postnatal vitamins. Who's even heard of a postnatal vitamin? I didn't have that with my
Right.
kid. Like just the full line of products. I wanted the color palette to feel very calm.
Yeah.
Um, I'm a little bit of a snob when it comes to design. And the massage therapist in me is like, I want it to be peaceful and calm and soothing.
Mhm,
That's what happens when a massage therapist gets their hands on any business.
mhm, mhm,
Everything is going to be white noise. I
mhm,
want to hear beautiful, calm music.
mhm,
And I walk in and it just feels soft and bright and clean and calm. It's exactly what I wanted. Even in
mhm,
the bathrooms, like I have little bumbo seats because
mm.
hard to even pee when you have it. Where are you going to put them? Who's going to watch them? Like, where are they going? I want to be able to stick them in the seat. We even have tiny little toilet seats that pop down for when you're training and little stools. So like when you're potty training, we got you covered on that. We have tampons. We have all the things you might need in case you
I have
forget
a hard
something.
time getting people to leave because, like, I wanna go
So we
and
made
see
our
them.
open play. That's the other thing. These places, this is a 2 hour max. I was like, no, no,
Uh-huh,
no. We're going to keep it open. We are 9 to 5 for our members, 7 days a week. You want to come? It's free for you to come in there, with your membership
uh-huh,
anytime. But we also wanted to make it accessible to the community.
mhm,
So we
mhm,
offer open community for our classes. You can do a
mhm,
drop-in class and just pay for the class. We have mom meetups and parent play dates where we have community where it's $20 to come in and do a
mhm.
drop-in like that. We also have monthly parties. So baby's first rave is coming up.
Oh my
We're
gosh.
doing holiday parties. We're doing yeah, all different kinds of themes. There's going to be a Bridgerton high tea
Oh
party,
my gosh.
all kinds of fun stuff.
I love
And
this.
I just, and for parents too, like free
Mhm,
cold brew, free hot
mhm.
coffee and tea. Just you can order food in if you want. You can bring your own snacks. We have high chairs. We have a little kitchen area, and it's all just like lovely. It's like a big living
Mhm.
room. I want it to be a home away from home.
Yeah, gosh, I just love this concept so much. I mean, it just sounds like it's something that would I love to hear these stories that I've heard oftentimes on the podcast of like these really great things that have come out of such a difficult time, that have in sense like not only helped heal you and how your entry to motherhood, but helped heal the collective in a way too, like through everything that we went through.
Yeah, totally. I mean, there's
It's
there's such a need for there's this idea of like a third space. You have your
yeah.
home and your work are your first two
Mhm.
spaces, but there's
Mhm.
no real, especially in New York, especially for moms, there just
Yeah.
isn't a third space. And
Mhm.
I think so much of less postpartum depression and anxiety this time is just having that third space where I can take my baby, I can have a coffee and have grown up conversation and be around other
Yeah.
moms and really learn from them and support them. And it's just been super. Even like the baby wearing dance class is so much fun. It's like a group of us and it's like silly and it's fun and it's movement, it's activity. My kid always laughs the whole time. It's just like super, super fun. I'm so glad I built the thing that I needed.
Yeah, and I think that that's just so inspiring to anybody listening because that we're our best customer. We really should use that. We think we have to reinvent the wheel, but whatever it is that we're needing, it's probably something that a lot of other people need as well.
Mm.
So, how did you manage to have a little one and to be pregnant and juggle all of this?
Yeah, so I always think about whether it's at work or at home, I thrive when I have support.
Mhm.
Even Olympic athletes have
Mhm.
coaches, have rehab, have PT, have
Mhm.
support, right? And I think the biggest mistake I made in my career is trying to do everything myself. I can
Mhm.
be brave, I can do everything. And it's like, nope, not only can you not, but you feel like you're going to burn out and you're spread too thin when you try.
Mhm.
And so for me, having adequate support at work and at home was a game changer.
Mhm.
And so what that looks like with my massage studios, we have 4 locations. I have a phenomenal COO. I have a phenomenal ops manager. We have a location manager. We have a front desk manager. We have a lead therapist. So I have this great team at work, keeping my massage studios running super smoothly. And
Mhm.
it's all women, which I love. And when I told them about my new project, I was like, who wants to help me out with this? Extra hours, extra pay, who wants to do it? And so many just immediately were like, sign me up, let's get it done. So my social media gal who does our email marketing, our social, she's on board. My ops manager, she's used to managing 4 of these, she's on board. And
Mhm.
it's just like getting that
Mhm.
team together to really believe in the vision was
Mhm.
huge. And then at home too, my 4-year-old, he goes to school. So he had 3K. In New York, it's called 3K. It's like a preschool. Um,
Mhm.
so he had daytime school, which
Mhm.
left me with some space.
Mhm.
And especially during pregnancy, I had so much anxious energy. But
Mhm.
let me tell you, it was so fun to, I think it's like the Virgo in me. Like I love to be organized. So I built out a template of what is every supply I need for this? What is every toy I want for this? I went on Pinterest for hours,
Mhm.
and it was so fun creatively because at home, if I want to make a big creative change, my husband has a say in it. At
Mhm.
work, just me though. So it's like, oh, I want to do this wallpaper in this
Mhm.
house, and I want to do
Mhm.
like this fun little, whatever the toy is, whatever the wallpaper is, whatever the
Mhm.
rugs are, the color palette. I had such a blast with the interior
Mhm.
design of it.
Mhm.
And I kept very good detail of what is it? How many do I need? What does it cost? What website did I get it from? Um, when did I order it? When will it be delivered? Where is it meant to be placed within the studio? And I
Mhm.
did this in case I went into labor early or something
Mhm.
happened so that my
Yeah.
team could implement the dream of it.
Mhm.
And so what's great about this too is that it's very replicable. So you never
Mhm.
know. If I want to open more eventually, it's very organized. I
Yeah.
have my playbook ready to go. And I did the same thing
Yeah.
with my massage business.
Yeah.
Um, and at home, I have an extremely supportive spouse. My husband is just 100% behind me.
Mhm.
Um, he was just super supportive of, I think he was mildly concerned at first, but once I showed him my financials and my plan,
Mhm.
and he started really seeing the potential of it, he got
Mhm.
quickly behind me. Um,
Mhm.
and it's been really helpful to have that. I
Mhm.
also have a full-time nanny who
Mhm.
I adore. She has her early childhood education experience,
Mhm.
and she has helped me with everything from, bathing my kid, organizing the house, getting groceries or cooking sometimes. It
Mhm.
takes a village. And
Mhm.
I think the more we support women, the better
Mhm.
things are. And if it were a man, it wouldn't even be a question. If
Mhm.
it were, how do you have a job and a kid? And it's
Right.
like,
Yep.
of course they do.
Mhm.
I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of centering around men's needs, and I think
Mhm.
women center around families' needs. And it
Mhm.
takes some conversations with your
Mhm.
spouse to be like, listen, I assume when I need something, I will ask, can I have
Mhm.
time for it? You always hear about how moms wake up super early to work out, but like dad
Mhm.
has a workout right during pickup.
Mhm.
Take some conversations about, when we want to do something, we ask.
Mhm. Yeah.
We center around the family's needs.
Mhm.
And so that looks like different things in different relationships, but I think it's really important to be able to know what your needs are and advocate for them.
Mhm. I mean, I'm just thinking, like, as you're telling me that story, how incredible it is that you're giving us this example of so many women struggle with asking for what they need and struggle with asking for help. And so you're really, luckily, you hung on to the power of that despite your experience through the pandemic. And you were able to tap right back into that and go, here's what I need, who's on board. And that is so difficult for moms and women. For some reason, we, have been kind of conditioned, or we somewhere along the line think we have to do it all of ourselves on our own, which I don't think we were intended to do. We've just thought, well, I have Google and YouTube, and like I'm supposed to figure it out all on my own.
Mhm, mhm.
No, don't do that. And
Yeah.
so I love you're not only giving us permission, but you're an example of how empowering that can be, and how you got everybody on board, including your husband, which I think is also a struggle for a lot of women. Like, how
Mm.
can I do this? And then you're also demonstrating that it's one of my goals to overcome this myth that you can't be a good mom and you can't be an entrepreneur at the same time, and just how having more than one business even has empowered you and been like, this space that has been almost like your self-care.
100%.
you know
I built it 100% for myself and my baby. Like,
right,
I cannot pretend, I mean, and I built my massage business for myself and my scoliosis. Like, I can't
right,
pretend otherwise. And I'm
right.
thrilled to have both. Yeah.
Right. So I love that you're this example of that, because so many women don't think that they can claim that for themselves and own that, and then the beautiful things that can come from that. It's just so I really love that. And so yeah, what are some of the community impacts other than what you've said already from creating Canopy? Because I really love that. I mean, it's just like community is so important, especially for new moms.
Yeah, I mean, I've been really thrilled with there's several different communities now within Canopy. So
Yeah.
we had a teachers meetup recently, and so there's like a community of educators, which is really cool, sharing resources because a lot of our teachers are physical based, so they're like doing pelvic floor rehab or physical therapy or just different self-care techniques,
Yeah.
yoga, meditation. So to be able to have that like healthcare side is really
Yeah.
cool. To see parents forming friendships and like trading cell phone numbers and having play dates with other parents is like just beyond. Um, a surprising one that I just didn't foresee was the grandparent community. So a lot of members
Wow.
send their parents who are there to help with their kids, and there's a
Uh-huh.
lot of grandparents hanging out, which is like really, really
That
cool.
is so cool.
There's definitely a corner of nannies that gets together
Yeah.
with kids, which I think it's like a good resource as well.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, and also just I've made personally so many friends as the
Yeah.
business owner, but also just as someone who goes with my baby. That's been super, super fun. So yeah, hopefully it's a broader impact.
Yeah. It's so inspiring. I just, I'm just so, my cup is filled just by having this conversation. I love this so much. So, to any moms who are listening who are just not sure whether they should start or grow that business, do you have any advice for them on the steps that they should take?
I think, I think, you have to just decide
Hmm.
and then take massive action to do it.
Hmm.
I saw a shirt the other day that said, because I said I would.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt that that was so impactful. There's something to be said about when you decide to do something and then you can trust yourself that you're really going to do it. It's like, okay, I said I was going to work out today. I know I'm exhausted. My kid was up at 4 this morning, but I still got to Pilates. Like I did it because I said I was going to do it. I'm true to my word. I do it. And I think just making the decision and then just massive action going for it.
Hmm.
Um, don't share it with people who don't know. This is something really big. I think our friends and family are well-intentioned, and I think unless they have built a business, they have no idea. And they can actually do harm by being supportive, right? Like you can build your website and be like, "Hey, Uncle Greg, how does this look?" And he can be like, "Kid, that looks great. You did a great job." Uncle Greg has no idea that you're missing all these opportunities on that website because he has no idea what he's looking at, right?
Right.
And on the other side, Aunt Sally could be like, oh, I don't know. You don't have any experience running a business. You don't know what you're doing. So therefore, it's going to fail. This is a terrible idea, and discourage you before you even get started. So I
Hmm.
would encourage you, share your ideas with a community of people who is going to uplift you, support you, and who knows, like find other entrepreneurs. It doesn't even have to be in the same field.
Hmm.
For me, I made friends with a guy who owned a computer store down the street, Mikey of Mikey's Hookup. Thank you, Mikey. And I asked him, what point of sale software are you using? What contracts do you use with your employees? He was able to help me through so many things, and having nothing to do with massage at the time. I
Hmm.
make friends with people who own restaurants. How do you solve for
Hmm.
this problem? How do you hire this? Who do you use for your accountant? Like find
Hmm.
other business owners, find women business owners because we get things
Hmm.
done. Don't ask your friends or family for feedback. I know that sounds harsh, but like
Hmm.
I would stick to when you have an idea, decide, take massive action, and find other mentors in the community who are women business owners. Ideally, it could be men too, but women business owners
Hmm.
are the people. Yeah.
Yeah, and I too think that making sure that you also get moms in the mix too, because we have such unique needs as entrepreneurs. Wait, hence this podcast, because
Yeah.
I was tired of hearing, well, I heard that I had to hire a nanny if I really wanted to get serious about my business. And I'm like, that's not necessarily true.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I think that that's wonderful advice. And I so love that we were able to talk about Canopy and press. And I mean, I just think you built something really beautiful that um, is so inspiring in so many ways. So, where can listeners learn more about Canopy and learn more about what you're doing?
Thank you so much. Our website is thecanopynyc.com. And on Instagram, we are at thecanopynyc.
I love it. And I'll leave links in the show notes below. Thank you so much, Rachel, for joining me today. I've loved this conversation.
Thank you so much. This is awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.